Welcome to episode 5 of Run the Brand, the podcast where endurance meets entrepreneurship. In every episode, we share powerful stories and lessons from founders, athletes, and creators that push their limits in sports, business, and life. So lace up and let's run with it. And today I'm once again joined by my co-founder of Mauja Media, Tim Jambula. So Tim, what are we going to talk about today?
We're gonna run it, but no. Today's topic is actually a really beautiful topic, and it's been a shift we kind of have been seeing for a bit. Basically, the old traditional, very conservative picture of a businessman, a entrepreneur, and that how it has shifted to today's modern entrepreneur, full of like basically to paint a very superficial picture, right? Back in the days, entrepreneurs or businessmen, always dressed nice in suits, which is amazing. But they went to work 12 to 16 hours, working the whole time, then cigarettes, and then other substances, and no balance when it comes to nutrition or no awareness at all. We don't want to blame any generation, but today's generation, it's such a radical shift in culture where entrepreneurs nowadays prioritize their sleep, their nutrition. Most of them actually go to the gym regularly, and a lot of them are actually transitioning into athletes and sports as well, which is fascinating to see. And we coming from a sports background, it's and now tapping into entrepreneurship, it's obviously a beautiful mix and a beautiful hybrid, which I enjoy a lot. But at the same time, to be frank, I didn't know this was possible. How,
Mm.
how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the person that you were describing is maybe a good example. You would think about that very successful banker back in the 60s, 70s,
Yeah,
living in New York, living a fast paced life, just not really having a balanced life. Like you
yeah,
said, fully focused on just making as much money as possible, like running a hedge fund in lunch break. They're sitting outside, smoking their cigars, eating like a big portion of pasta.
yeah,
Just, I mean, obviously, there's a very, like you said, superficial picture.
yeah.
While you nowadays, basically, I would say all those type A personalities and high achievers, where they're not just pursuing success in business,
Mhm.
but also always have usually a goal in sports. Doesn't matter if it's just staying in shape or maybe running your next fast PB in the marathon or doing high rocks. I mean, high rocks, maybe we can touch on it later, is a huge hype as well at the moment
Yeah.
and has been for a long time. But I think it's a beautiful shift to see, which I think we should definitely dive into today, and also maybe what learnings we found in that and what we also could see how this new shift or like this new, I would say, everybody wants to be this founder and entrepreneur that
Mhm.
has this lifestyle, the positive sides of it. But also, even though it's much better than it used to be,
Mhm.
it still has a lot of dark sides, especially when it comes to social media, because social media is glorifying still to an extent the hustle culture, which I think we're definitely going to also dive in a bit today.
100%. I think it is a topic that needs more light on it. Because social media is beautiful, right? Everything is shiny, everything is amazing and glorified, and uh, I mean, no one ever shares. Of course, people are becoming more vulnerable,
Mhm.
but I think we need to speak the truth as well, like behind the curtains, behind the scenes, what's happening health wise and everything, and the ups and downs of it, of course.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, people are getting more vulnerable,
Yeah.
but in the end, I heard that actually in another podcast, there was a guy, a very successful um, fitness influencer. Actually, he shifted his whole life in 18 months and grew like a huge, huge following by sharing nutrition tips, training tips. I mean, he's a personal trainer and kind of took his whole business online.
Mhm.
And what he said in the podcast was kind of a bit shocking. Even the podcast host was questioning about it, how he meant it.
Mhm.
But he was saying if he is doing his job well,
Mhm.
his Instagram grid is going to look like a highlight reel. And
Mm.
he is right to an extent
Mhm.
because there's only so much you can share on Instagram and social media.
Yeah.
I personally don't like this approach because, I mean, most people are aware that Instagram is not the full truth. But I feel like if you really want to build not just an audience, but fans, people that actually want to support you and really stand behind you, you need to show the full you. And there is no way that you only living a highlight real life. But I also do get his point that there's only so much you can share.
Yeah.
And in the end, you shouldn't hate the player, you should hate the game. So I do get that. But there's also personalities that I feel like doing it really well.
Hmm.
I mean, we could, for example, also talk about those personalities that are pushing this new founder, CEO slash more balanced, healthy lifestyle. I mean, you have Nick Bear from BPN Performance, you have George Eaton from Represent, Marcus from Minted New York. I
Mm.
mean, the list is endless.
Yeah, true.
Feels like every CEO and founder at the moment is just having a goal out of business.
Doing another
Yeah,
high rocks
yeah.
here and there and sneaking another marathon in and running clubs, and it sounds like a trend. And I think we need to emphasize this as well. It sounds like a trend, but I feel like we are beyond the peak trend now, where a lot of founders have tried it out. A lot of kind of dropped out of it, but now it's still a steady thing going, right? And I think here we gotta mention as well, like I think the most beautiful thing as well is not just that men or female are doing it, but it's every entrepreneur.
Mm.
Like I've met lots of female that are going to the gym. They have their own retreats. That like I feel like females do it even more holistically, while men are doing like more the hybrid athletes. We have females going to high rocks, but at the same time they're going to retreats.
Mm.
I have less male entrepreneurs that go into retreats, for example, but the whole awareness approach, the not just mental, but how is it called?
The
um
mindfulness one.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, the mindfulness approach. I feel like we can, from a male perspective, we can learn a lot from how female entrepreneurs are doing it, because this is this is where we want to get to as a
Mm.
society, right? Or even as founders, we all have products or services that are helping people, that are helping brands or even consumers. But at the same time, I think we should not over sacrifice the numbers and over sacrifice certain things. Like it's we are shifting away from a super siloed focus of on KPIs, numbers,
Mm.
and how many hours you work and how many hours you work. We had a chat yesterday where someone was like, "Oh yeah, I sleep too much and I don't have as many sleepless nights as the friends around me who are founding." I'm like, this is a lie. This is not where we want to go as a society.
Mm.
It's a trap.
Mm.
I mean, I'm doing that right now and it's not doing me well at all. It's Instagrammable to be 1 week in London, 1 week in Berlin, 1 week back in Sweden and stuff, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah, no, for sure. I feel that's also actually, I think, one thing a lot of founders and entrepreneurs or type A personalities fall into this trap
Mm.
is if business is getting very hectic or life is getting hectic, they try to start controlling every other variable
Mm.
in their life they can control. Let's say they get super dialed into their nutrition and taking that to an extreme. They're getting super dialed in taking their like sports and training plan
Mhm.
super extreme because it gives them that comfort zone
Yeah.
and knowing and the feeling like, okay, I'm on track, I'm in control when other things in their life are not in control, which at first glance seems obviously like a great option, but it's like a recipe for disaster and a recipe for burnout. I mean, even people like I would say that's a good like, naming him again, like Nick Bear. I think most people know him like super driven entrepreneur, super
Mm.
driven athlete, and even him recently realizing, okay, I'm neglecting relationships with my wife, my kids, and it's fine. Life is not that serious.
It's not. It's not. I think we need to understand that as well as human beings. And I think our surrounding needs to understand that even more, because we glorify certain things that should not be glorified. But at the same time, it comes down to vulnerability, right? We talk about it often with our friends as well. that if we are struggling somewhere, or we have this platform, so to speak, that everyone can come up with their mind or their opinion and everything and what they're struggling with, without being judged. So basically, the strength on social media of we listen and we don't judge, to actually live it out instead of just saying it for a TikTok, and then that's basically it. Because I think um, if we all talk our minds and opinions more often, you have people around you who would correct you more.
Mm.
But if we have a society or surrounding that does not support it, people will hide it, and live according to to their own, let's say, opinion, which might be wrong, until it's maybe too late,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
I think is a bit dangerous. But I think this new type of entrepreneurship, the modern entrepreneur, as we both call them, I think that to approach things holistically instead of what you just said, the whole silo. That's why entrepreneurship exists, right?
Mhm.
To go and get away from the corporate silos of working just in your department and not talking to anybody else and stuff. Now we have startups that are more agile and are doing great stuff and running their companies differently, better company culture. And now I feel like it's another wave where the founders are realizing, hey, I can only be a good person to my surrounding, to my coworkers, to maybe partner or family, if I take care of myself as well,
Mhm.
because it's your responsibility. It's not the responsibility of your surrounding to take care of you while you are taking care and building company. No, 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 no. It's your responsibility as well. Um, and people will should hold you accountable. But at the same time, to approach things holistically,
Mhm.
this should be way more important than a number.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I totally agree that the other people around you are not responsible for keeping you accountable.
Mm,
You need to be accountable for them as well and for your own actions, obviously.
yeah.
I feel that especially this new image
Mm,
of the founder and entrepreneur is going definitely in the right direction, but I feel like there's mostly this one missing link, which is the mindfulness and mind part,
yeah.
because especially on social media, there is still, I mean, most people are waking up and understanding it. There's more and more people actually speaking up, but there is still a sense of hustle culture going on. I mean, I even experienced it myself. You know, I'm running a company, the agency with you. I'm training for an Ironman, half Ironman. I'm having a girlfriend that I'm like want to spend time with. I have my friends I want to spend time with, and especially when business is picking up. I mean, the last few days. I mean, we can definitely talk about that when it comes to stress. I mean, we
Yeah.
were literally out and about every day, filming workshop with clients, then filming events, having some campaigns to shoot. We still had a lot of admin work to do.
Mm,
I feel I definitely wasn't able to keep up my nutrition as much as I used to. I definitely wasn't keeping up my hydration. I definitely wasn't keeping up my stress regulation. And the dangerous thing about all this, it still feels good.
yes. Oh
That's
God.
the problem because it feels like things is happening fast.
Mm,
Things are moving. Things are getting done. It just feels good. It feels like, okay, wow, a lot of things are happening, so I must be doing something right.
yeah.
It conveys this feeling of forward motion,
Yeah.
which obviously is true, but it's not sustainable.
Mm,
I mean, even when I compare my training for the Ironman this week was horrible. Like it was the worst week of training in my entire prep because I wasn't having time. I wasn't having time for nutrition.
mm,
I wasn't having time to properly hydrate. I wasn't time or giving myself time just to regulate my stress a bit. And even though it felt great because everything in the business side felt it's like moving forward, if I zoom out and see the progress I was doing as a complete whole person,
mm,
it is not as significant as the other weeks where everything was way more balanced. It's
mm,
kind of the same thing of multitasking.
yeah.
Multitasking feels great, but if you, and it feels also like you're getting a lot of things done actually. But if you zoom out, you're actually realizing, okay, I'm not getting as much things done, if in comparison, if I would just focus on one thing
Mm-hmm.
and would do one thing at a time
Yeah.
and making sure that I can fully give it my whole attention.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Guilt. To be honest, guilty on all counts. I mean, we've been through it together and we've talked about it as well. Especially, um, what's new to me is what you just said about the your whole prep time. That this week has been the harshest, the craziest, and the outcome of it. That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like this week, the volume and intensity wasn't even that high,
Mm,
but not just my watch, but also the way I was feeling.
mm,
It was the first time I actually was in proper overtraining. And I'm usually very conscious about that because I mean, I have a background in sports science,
mm,
so I'm very particular about periodization and slowly, step by step, increasing my workload and intensity. So it's not coming
mm,
from rapidly increasing my workload because I mean, I'm in prep for 5 months.
mm,
It's not that I just started last week. The only thing that has changed is I had super little sleep, I
mm.
had poor nutrition, and just definitely also the hydration. And obviously, it's crazy what stress can do. I remember I had a track session on Tuesday. I was supposed to do 6 times 800-meter repeats.
Mhm.
It was the first time in the whole prep that I actually had to kind of scale down the workout and go down to 400-meter repeats because my body was just not having it.
Crazy.
And I would say the biggest difference was honestly the stress.
Crazy. That is insane. Man, stress management, we need to learn that somehow. Like it's so important. I mean, just to touch upon sleep, for example, for me personally, I think it's how should I put this? It's a very big societal lie. A lot of things, and I feel like social media is making it worse. This whole trend. I think the trendiest video or reel this year was this reel by this, I don't know, I forgot his name, but the guy with the Sakatoga water. You seen him?
Thankfully not.
Ah, he went viral. People went nuts. It's actually like a comedy,
Mm-hmm.
but apparently he really lives like that because he does it like every day, and he's been doing it for a long time, way before he did the one time where he went viral. And he has put a lot of nuggets in it. He jumped into the water. His Before he jumped, it was something 51, and then once he touched the water, it was 55. So it was a joke that he was in the air for 4 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He played the social media game, which is fine. But I feel like in we have all these it's not a law, but we have these unwritten, let's say, proverbs in society that the more you do, the more and better your outcome will be.
Mm.
That's BS. Um, you should not work hard per se, but you need to balance it out with working smart. Bill Gates actually said something once. I laughed about very hard. He said, if you want to get something done really, really, really well, give it to a lazy person. You know why?
Mm-mm.
Because if you give the job to a lazy person, the lazy person will get it done as fast as possible
Okay, another one.
and with the best outcome, because the lazy person doesn't want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
They want to get it done so they can go back and be lazy. You know what I mean? Basically.
And they're gonna do it in the smartest ways and the most efficient way because they don't
Exactly.
want to put too much effort into it.
Exactly. Which is actually funny.
I do actually I always thought that too. I had the same mindset. Oh yeah, don't work hard,
Yeah.
but smart. But I actually not I can't take the credit myself, but I also heard that from other successful founders,
Mm,
especially from like numerous German companies. They actually said, "No, that's bullshit. It's you have to work hard.
mm,
It's a lie if you would think you don't have to work hard for building your own company,
mm.
but you have to work smart as well. It's
Yeah.
not either or, it's both."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you mentioned earlier with the multitasking, it's something I had to learn as well.
Mm.
It's this book. The author's name is Carl Newport.
Deep work.
Yeah.
Mm.
I love this guy. I
Mm.
flipping love this guy. I remember learning and studying for my Abitur, for my A levels. And back then, I was listening to music and studying. And I mean, I was younger. My mind was soaking up everything, which was cool. But looking back, I think I could have learned more effective and way better by turning off music, for example. Nowadays, I work with no music and less distraction. My phone is not around. And I work, I don't want to say faster, but more efficient and more focused. But when it comes to this, a lot of people are different.
Yeah.
But he says it in the book as well that the less distraction you have, the better it is for your mind because you otherwise you are wearing yourself out subconsciously
Mm.
over time. I think multitasking is great at like certain levels. I don't want to say it's like 0 and 1, right?
Mm.
And in between, there's so many nuances.
Yeah.
Multitasking. When I'm, I don't know, doing my dishes, for example, and I'm listening to podcasts, it's basically multitasking. But that's not really wearing because I'm listening, but at the same time, it's not taking any mental workload to do the dishes. It's monotone
Mm.
work with my hands. So I think there are levels and nuances to it,
I mean,
of
there's.
course.
I think there's also this other book, Hyperfocus. If you want to like just read up on like that type of like topic,
Yeah.
because the author of this book, actually talks about the same thing,
Oh.
actually like the same principle of deep work, and he also puts that into category. You have like a activity
Mhm.
that is using a lot of mental effort,
Mhm.
and then obviously you have activities that don't use a lot of mental effort, and it really highly depends on the person. For example, if you're cooking and you did the recipe millions of times,
Yeah.
then it's a low mental effort activity. You
Yeah.
can apply that to the gym too. There's a lot of people. Let's say I'm going to the gym for years now.
Mm.
I'm totally fine listening to a podcast
Yeah.
and working out. I will fully be able to focus on a podcast. But if you're new to the gym,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't listen to a podcast because you will probably not pick up on anything because you're just still using too much brain power to focusing on doing the exercises right.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's a different type of multitasking. But there we come back to being most efficient, using your time the most efficiently.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like you said,
I think that you're 100% right. There are nuances to it, and the repetition. That's why repetition matters so much. I
mm,
think, may it be in how's it, Atomic Habits and all these books, they mention it often. And even my most favorite author, um, the guy Malcolm Gladwell, he wrote a book about outliers and wrote that you need to do something 10,000 times with the 10,000 not our rule, but our rule basically. Um, but although all these stuff have been written down, I keep saying that everyone who reads it needs to try to interpret it to their life.
mm,
It's not like the whole book is like the Bible and applies to everyone the same. I think we all have different lifestyle, and everything has its own nuances every single time, right?
yeah,
But I think personally, I had to try that out and realize, okay, multitasking is when I need more, I don't know, more mental workload, I need to focus more. It's the best for me to be, my surrounding needs to be completely silent, and I do that task and do it well
yeah,
instead of doing it somehow and then listening to music, my mind is shifting back and forth, and then that even stresses me subconsciously. Yeah, it's sometimes too much, but I think when it comes to that, one needs to really get to know themselves a
yeah,
lot, try out different things. I'm a very big fan of experimenting. Maybe, I don't know, journaling might help you, whatever it is, but try out different techniques
yeah.
and see what sticks, what helps you in the short term and in the long term, and try to combine them as well. Things don't always have to be blue or yellow; they
Mm,
can become green, and then your own type of green as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
I love that. And I mean, I think it ties in actually perfect to also another point we wanted to talk about
Mm.
that kind of might be tools that we are planning on using and introducing. Because what you said, that you try out things and
Mm.
see how they will affect, let's say, your sleep, your performance, your brain capacity, and being able just to kind of track those
Mhm.
and then kind of see how those variables or
Yeah.
different variables affecting certain aspects of your life. I mean, we have Whoop watches that are great in that. Um, I think what most people just also have to understand, sometimes when you're so deep in it, you
Mm.
don't actually realize how big of an effect something has on you. Perfect example, let's take sleep.
Yes.
If you're running on 5 or 6 hours of sleep every day because you think, okay, I'm totally fine with that. I'm doing that. I mean, I myself woke up for a long time, 5:15, because of my Ironman prep. And otherwise, I wouldn't just have been able to get everything that I need to get done. I was like feeling, okay, I'm fine. I'm working. I'm getting the stuff done that I need to get done. I'm not feeling too tired. It's okay. But then, as soon as you start sleeping maybe 7 hours or 8 hours, you're actually realizing, wow, I did actually have some brain fog. I did
Mm.
actually was mentally fatigued. I didn't recover as fast as I'm recovering now. I was way more hungry. I needed way more food.
Mhm.
And you can apply that to literally all different aspects of hydration, nutrition,
Mm.
sleep, stress management, I mean, meditation, breath work. If you don't keep, if you, or journaling, whatever works or whatever floats your boat,
Yeah.
but if you don't do those things and experiment, you won't realize how big of a difference or how little of a difference they can actually
Mm.
make. Um, but I think the interesting thing about the dynamic between us two is right now we're kind of pursuing the same thing,
Mhm.
but having a totally different
Yeah.
lifestyle. I mean, I think the one thing that is the same that we're just both working a lot, maybe a lot, way too much. But like I said, you sometimes don't have to work only smart, but also hard, especially in the beginning. I think it would be a lie saying like, no, I'm just going to work smart. I'm not working hard. But just to paint the picture, I have a home base here in Berlin.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm traveling a lot, which can be stressful, but it's just a life I chose because I love it. I'm training a lot. That I'm like the training is consuming for sure around 15 hours per week. Um, yeah, I think that's basically the main difference. While you are doing way more on the business side as well,
Mm.
a lot more multiple things that you're juggling. You're still doing your academics, like not just academics. You're actually busy doing your thesis.
Mm.
You basically every week you're somewhere else. You don't have a home base.
Yeah.
You don't even have time to train or work out at the moment.
That is, to be honest, I think the workout part is the biggest toll because
Yeah,
I have no outlet.
yeah,
That's my problem. Like stress and all this tensity when you're working and having more and more responsibilities. There's so much going on subconsciously. May it be, and for me, for example, it manifests in my body,
Hmm.
which means I'm more tense subconsciously. Like even my muscles, you feel it, and that obviously affects you over time, right? Like long term over time. And although it is not, it's I separate or divide things in macro and micro. And while on the macro level, I think, oh, I'm doing so much,
Hmm.
I'm getting all this done, and everything. On the micro level, it's building up over time. And now I like 2 weeks ago, I had to make a big decision to um, not pursue one of my biggest dreams, and go to America, for it would just be for a short time though. But it was the right decision to make because
Hmm.
otherwise my health wouldn't sustain it. Wouldn't I don't think I would survive it. Of course, I'm not gonna die,
Yeah.
but I would come out of it way more damaged than if I do not make that decision.
Yeah.
Like to sum it up, focus. Everybody keeps telling and preaching about focus. It is important. You
Hmm.
cannot do everything at the same time. There's a phase for certain things, and to prior prior. I can't pronounce this word, but prioritization is an actual important thing. And it's part of adulting, it's part of growing up, and it's part of choosing what is important to you. Is it the people around you, your friends, your relationships, and everything? What is more important to you? But at the same time, do not forget that your health is as important because there are these three pillars a lot of people mention, which is your health, your wealth, and your time.
Hmm.
These three are almost everything.
Mm.
Your health, you can have it's like a trifecta, right? Like a triangle. You can have health, and no wealth, and but time, for example. And then you can play the game and always subtract something while something increases. To reach a perfect balance is very hard, because it's not like time is in your control,
Yeah.
right? It's not like health is fully in your control. It is to a certain level in your control, but you need to take care of it. Taking care is like taking care of a lot of things we have in society, right? Which is maintenance. It's becoming one of my most favorite words nowadays. Maintenance of the little things.
Mm.
Like your house, for example, you clean it, you take care of it, you dust it and stuff like that. The dishwasher, like every single thing. And that's the same with our body. We need, I, I'm basically talking to myself right now, because I needed to remind myself that my body, my time, my health, there are limits to everything. And although I think I am invincible because I'm so young and
Mhm.
everything, it is a lie, because it will get to you one day. And I don't want to say don't work hard, or whatsoever, but there's definitely a working dumb,
Mm.
which I have been doing over the last few months. It's basic. Okay, let me paint an example. It's basically like me trying to there's been this trend on YouTube of um ordering in literally industrial size of food and trying to eat it all at the same time. It's not sustainable, but they know it themselves and they keep saying that it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Most of these creators, I think they do it once a month or something like that, but you cannot do it like your 3 meals per day cannot look like that.
Yeah.
And overdoing, over consuming everything over the balance, and once you reach a tipping point and it falls over, it always goes down.
Yeah.
It's called a tipping point for a reason. But I needed to make the decision. Okay, first of all, I think one tip I would give to everybody is listen to your body.
Yeah.
It sounds so cliche, but listen to your body. Because I think our bodies give us the first signs of a lot of things, not everything maybe,
Yeah.
but a lot of things. A lot of things we might feel it, a lot of things we might not, but often you'll feel it.
Yeah.
Often. And once you, for me, for example, it manifests, as I said, in my muscles. And I told you, I have pains in my hands. I had a shoulder injury, which was unnecessary in the sense of I didn't really injure myself. It was just my muscles being super tense 24/7.
Yeah. So you didn't
Um,
even like it was not a workout injury. It just
no,
came out of nowhere. That's
it
yeah.
was just stress. It was stress. I wasn't regulating myself. I wasn't maintaining my body. And the other thing is
But can
work.
I quickly just intersect here
Yeah.
because that's like what you saying. Like I love that because it's so perfect. So many people on the internet do that. I think the last 15 minutes
Mhm.
you use the word body maybe 30 times, 15 times. I'm always sharing right now. But what you're actually describing, you don't even use your body at the moment.
Yeah.
Like it sounds stupid. You're using your mind,
Yeah.
the stress. So it's not just the body. It's this. I think there's this next level to it, which I'm also very much struggling with it. It's not just the body; it's the
Mm.
balance between body and mind, mindfulness. That is such a crucial point
Yeah.
that people forget about. That the mind has such a huge effect
Yeah.
on the body and vice versa.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's often overlooked because it's so much harder.
It's it is that's why we talking about this, right? The whole approach of things, like the holistic, like the word or the terminology holistic, for the longest time I didn't I knew what it meant, but I
Mhm.
didn't understand. Nowadays, I'm comprehending it more and more and more. And this thing of body, spirit, mind, this triangle
Mhm.
again, to keep and to strive for a balance. It doesn't have to be perfect, but to balance it out, to strive for it is what we should truly pursue, I think. Because that's the only way forward. It's not guaranteed, it doesn't guarantee anything, but it definitely guarantees you feeling better. It
Yeah.
definitely guarantees a lot of stuff. It has so many good side effects of how you appear and approach other people in society, your relationships, and everything. But I definitely do agree. I'm not even using my body, which is insane. I'm having injuries as if I'm doing athlete, like working out or doing sports on athlete level without even lifting a finger, which
Mm.
is insane. But it's that's basically the danger. There is, and it's real, right?
I mean, I think the statistic is, isn't that stress is, I mean, obviously it's hard to say, but I think stress is the most common cause of heart attacks,
Yeah,
which basically is the most common way to die, or cause of death. I'm not sure. I mean, please fact check me on this.
yeah.
Maybe we should invent like an AI agent that can
Yeah.
fact check
While
us
we
while we're
talking,
talking.
that would be great, actually.
Maybe we should build that. But yeah, no, I think stress is just such a silent killer. That's the
It
big
is.
problem. So I also would love to dive into maybe how you, because I mean, I know you have big goals too, especially for next year.
Mm,
You also gonna come or start in transitioning into a different phase of life where you're trying to maybe be a bit more settled is the wrong word, because I know you're not gonna settle for at least another 20 years until you're 100. Um, but what is your plan?
mm,
What is your goal of, or what are maybe some, even some tools that you're trying to use and incorporate into your daily life, into your routine to get a bit more control and a
mhm.
bit more, let's say, also freedom then back?
Um, I think first thing is a making sure I have one home.
Mm,
I think that's one home, one bed. It is to a lot of people it might sound weird, but living and basically getting around three places or three locations right now is just not sustainable.
mm,
I think coming back here, having one home, one bed, and making sure I sleep in the same home or same bed and build my lifestyle around my sleep. Like, first of all, setting, okay, making sure, do I need 7 hours, 7.5 hours, or 8 hours of sleep? And then whatever hour that is, or whatever duration is healthy for me or my body needs, take that and protect it at all costs.
yeah.
I think that's the first. The second is definitely, I mean, there are a lot of stuff, right? Nutrition may be one, but for me personally, it's sleep.
Mhm.
What I figured out as well is that my body works best on running on all natural,
Mhm.
meaning water, just water,
Mhm.
no sugar, nothing, just water. And I should, nutrition wise, I should reduce my meat consumption.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
I should reduce it. Um, I don't want to go full vegan or vegetarian,
Yeah. I think it's
but I
not the way
think,
to go.
yeah, but I think one meal, in the morning, I don't eat meat anyway. Uh,
Psychopath.
imagine.
The listeners are
Um,
going to be like numb now.
ah,
Death. I'm
they're
sorry.
like, out
Ah.
next podcast. No, but I think for me personally, it just helps me a lot. And
For sure.
when I we talk about listening to your body, that is something my body signaled me already. So the list goes long, but one thing I want to add to this is data. I
Yeah.
know data is, to a lot of people, it's just too much, and it might get them into a rabbit hole, and they might then feel worse because
And
they're seeing the
perfecting,
data.
trying to perfecting every little
Exactly.
detail. Yeah.
But for me personally, I love data. I love to see, it's basically like a second layer of figuring out what's going on with you
Yeah.
and the little details. But for me, it's not that I want to over obsess on data, but I want to know, okay, how was my sleep? Like sleep, for example, I
Yeah.
would love to track my sleep. How long am I in REM phase? How long
Deep
am
sleep, how you
exactly
light
deep sleep
sleep,
and
awake.
everything?
Yeah.
Just to know, okay, how can I improve the parts that are important to me? And sleep, for example, is just important to me, or the most important. But of course, there is physical, which is the sleep, nutrition, to make it short. Then mental, which is a lot, like very important. I think men should talk about it more often. Is therapy, because I think there are just so many things from the past maybe affecting me,
Yeah.
and I want to work towards it. And then focus. Ooh, focus is a big thing. Coming back, then emotional is of course relationship. Although I don't have a relation, like let's say romantic relationship
But
right
also
now.
your friendships, like
Exactly.
even like relationships you maybe have in work.
Yeah.
It can be any sort of things that are affecting your emotional behavior, which can be obviously another point environmental,
Yeah.
which in your case, like you said already in the beginning, is a big, big, big part.
Yeah.
I think often people don't realize how crucial the environment around you is, not just the people around you, but literally the place you're staying in, the place you're sleeping in,
Yeah.
the place you're working in.
Yeah.
It's a huge effect. Like you said,
Yeah.
you just having to bounce around. I mean, I think everybody knows this feeling after being away for a long time and being able just to have a space where they
Yeah.
know they can go back to and go home, and it
Mm.
feels like I'm home.
The relief.
Exactly. And
The
if that
relief.
is missing, that's a huge part. Like
It
you're
is a huge
using
part
this comforts that comfort zone.
that comes with it. But lead me through, like you talked and you've mentioned just now as well how much of a toll the training
Mm.
is, and the training as well as managing Mauja right now.
Mhm.
But and then next year you told me outside of the podcast that next year you would you have other goals, so, or you want to take things one step up. But how are you, what's your framework of maybe doing things better after what you've learned from this phase of training and upcoming Ironman?
So it's very difficult because I'm also obviously learning on the go, and I definitely haven't it figured out at all.
Hmm.
But one thing I can say, I'm also a perfectionist, and I love to also often go way too extreme into things. So that's one thing I'm like very careful of.
Yeah.
But I mean, we talked it in other episodes, coming back from this professional sports athlete background, knowing that this is like a recipe for disaster if you just obsess about one thing. Obviously, it's very good being able to obsess about something. I think that's also what a lot of people with ADHD
Yeah.
struggle with. And yes, I do have still a lot of crazy athletic goals next year, but I'm also very well aware that it's all about balance,
Mhm.
and that you shouldn't stress yourself about it. I mean, that's also one thing like we talked about why I'm feeling more happy. I'm just not an athlete, and I'm much more. I'm a founder, a business owner, friend, a partner. I'm athlete, and with times like this where there's just so much happening, business wise, and you neglecting, you don't have maybe time to have a good nutrition. You maybe eating out a lot because it's just save time. You're not sleeping a lot because just there's deadlines and you have to be in places, and then you're still trying to figure in how you can incorporate training into it. And then obviously, I mean, we also met with friends this
Mhm.
weekend, and we had this event, and then also obviously spending some quality time with my girlfriend. It's a lot, and the best thing you can do is just to say, okay, if not everything goes as you plan it to be, and how you, that's the thing, expectations are dangerous because often we have high expectations and have this perfect picture of how things are going to go,
Mhm.
and just being fine with like, okay, it's not the end of the world. It comes back to prioritization. What's more important for me, to maybe finish my half Ironman sub 5 hours, or that I'm having a healthy relationship with my partner,
Mm.
and maybe that the business is going well, that I can actually sustain a living? What is the most important thing for me? And when I'm coming back to that, yeah, I mean, honestly, it would be cool to do it under 5 hours,
Mm.
but it's fine. It's fine. I just gonna adjust the training a bit, be fine with like, hey, not everything has to be perfect.
Mm.
It's fine. Life's going on. I think that's a very important thing to learn, that it's fine. Just it's fine.
Yeah, and I think there are two types most of the times, right? Like, of course, there are multiple times if we go into the micro, but there are the experts and there are the generalists.
Yeah.
And I think you can not be the best in everything.
Yeah.
That is death.
Yeah.
You cannot be the best partner, the best in your like Ironman race, and then I don't know, the best to your family and friends as well. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. But also coming back to the point, because I couldn't agree more. If you want to perform your best in everything,
Mm.
there is a certain framework, key things that you can do
Mm-hmm.
that will allow you to do it to the highest level. But be warned, it can be very unsustainable, and it's fine if you can't keep it up, and if you miss things, it's totally fine, because as soon as you make yourself feel bad for
Mm.
not being able to hit everything in that list,
Yeah.
it will start stressing you and will become a negative effect. First, I think we touched on it multiple times. Make sure to drink enough water, not just water, but also make sure to drink enough electrolytes
Mm-hmm.
and minerals, especially if you do live in a place that's hot, where you sweat a lot, if you work out a lot. You won't even believe what having the proper, not just water, but electrolyte level will do to
Mm.
your energy levels. It's really crazy what it can do.
Crazy.
So because obviously our brain uses a lot of like neurons, and
Mm-hmm.
all those neurons to not to make it scientific, to cross all the perfect neural pathways, they're using a lot of minerals as kind of activators for those synaptic transmissions. So even just on a biological level or physiological level, it's
Mm-hmm.
really important. Then obviously, personally, I can feel a big difference in nutrition, not just the quality of food, which is very important, but also the quantity if you're training a lot. And even if you were thinking and working a lot and using your brain to a high capacity,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is using so much energy that if you don't eat enough
Mm.
and the quality, you will definitely feel a big difference, which I could also feel, especially this week, especially eating out all the time and not eating enough. It
Yeah.
was not just the food we were eating,
True.
it was also not the right quantity. And I mean, everyone has to figure out what works best for them. That's
Mm.
why I'm actually a big fan of those wearable devices.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, like you mentioned, love to obsess about data,
Mm.
but I feel like it gives you this objective measurement. The first and most crucial part I'm always saying is people need to learn how to listen to your body. Like you said, it's number one, but it's great to have an objective measure that either solidifies your
Mm.
data or maybe makes you question if it's accurate or not. Just
Yeah.
giving you a second data point
Yeah.
that's not just listening to your body. And it also, it's hard for people that to learn how to listen to your body. So it can be a help to start getting better
Mm-hmm.
with it. That's why I'm actually a big fan of Whoop, because you can adjust like these little variables and
Yeah.
see how it affects. I mean, so we covered nutrition. We covered, I mean, obviously, sleep a lot. That sleep is important. I mean, we don't need to talk about that. There's countless books out there that not only talk about quantity but quality of sleep.
Yeah.
For me, a big thing I can actually realize is, especially when things are hectic,
Mm.
one tool I love to use, which I'm still very bad in, but I can really feel a big difference mentally and
Mm.
from my mindfulness, is breath work. It always
Mm.
sounds very woo-woo when you think about these retreats in Bali where people are just sitting there and
Voo voo and voodoo and
yeah, we can, like I said, you can take everything to an extreme.
yeah.
But I mean, I think, um, uh, was it Hoffman?
Yeah.
Hoffman? No,
Um,
Wim Hof.
Wim Hof. Yeah.
Wim
Yeah.
Hof. Something with Hof, yes. Sorry, Wim Hof. I mean, how could I forget him? I think he kind of made it very popular in this in the extent, but there's such a whole world of different tools how you can use your breath to regulate your emotions and
Mm-hmm.
also just your stress levels, which is a very powerful tool. Meditation is great. I
Mm.
suck at meditation. I have a very hard time. Uh, Definitely something that I want to get better at.
Yeah.
Um, that's the mindfulness component. We talked about the environmental effect. And also when it comes to nutrition, everybody just needs to figure out for themselves what
Mm.
works for them. Like you said, you don't want to fully go vegan, but I think, I mean, you don't want to take anything away from you, but you said if you eat some, if you don't eat meat at lunch,
Mm.
you usually don't have the afternoon slump.
Yes.
That
Exactly.
might be applicable for
Yeah.
you, maybe for a lot of other people. It's
Yeah.
just trying that out. I mean, not going to scientific here again. The data shows that a plant-based diet is the healthiest diet
Mm.
coming from a person that also eats meat. I love meat, don't get me wrong. Just honestly, objectively, the data is there, the
Mm.
science is there. You can't argue that. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people love to do that, and that's the thing. Nutrition science. That's my biggest pet peeve with nutrition science.
Yeah.
Is it's there's too many variables.
That is true.
You can't. Yes, there are studies, but then they're also not really applicable to real life. But if you would just use the data that's right there, totally off related for this podcast, but I just love nutrition science. Uh, the plant-based diet is preferably, if you want to live long, the best one.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. There's actually a fifth pillar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we've had the pillar of the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the environmental. There is a last one I would classify as its own pillar, which is rest.
Mm.
Rest is and then the crazy part about rest is there are, I think, five or six type of rest. The one is rest for your, like, you might have gone to a holiday and come back and not feel rested,
Mm-hmm.
although you have rested. So there's so many layers to rest. May it be on the awareness level, sorry, on the mindful level, may it be on the awareness that you have rested as well, may it be because the week we've just had, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think um, like in, let's say, in IT or in tech, call it often sprint, and then you have extreme amount of a week and working hours, and then you're like a week of rest. For example, Cristiano Ronaldo has his training plan now with over plus 30 or plus 35. I think he started. Is he rests and does recovery as much as he actually trains,
Mm.
the same amount of hours. And I think rest may it be for your muscles. Of course, sleep falls into it as well, big time. I think sleep is one of the biggest components and could be its own pillar as well. But the rest of what we did last year, we went to the jungle for 2 weeks with little to no phone or cellular service,
Yeah.
and
And actually, we didn't have much sleep.
exactly, we didn't have much sleep, but at the same time, we felt so rested because we're in the purest nature
Yeah.
with the with great people. We're laughing like the whole time, basically. Of course, it was work as well, but the rest part of what we, and then we had the same when we went up to Scandinavia, for example.
Yeah.
No laptop, no work, nothing. It was just um not communion, but basically great surrounding and in the purest of nature,
Yeah.
and just in absolute awe. And then we came back and got back to work. I think rest is I don't remember all type of rest, but might do we might mention it another time. But I think rest is something I had to learn myself.
Mm.
Now I've neglected it and am paying the price. But I think coming into this new phase, rest is going to be one of the primary pillars, to be honest. And then everything else comes afterwards. I think there is a nation that does it really, really, really well, and I love how they do it because your whole surround. It's a Saturday that is it's called Shabbat.
Mm.
It's a Saturday, and the whole nation basically rests, and you feel rested because everyone around you is just chilling.
Mm.
You're like, whoa, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's like basically the Sundays here, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not
like,
really like people are resting, sadly. But I think
except the
rest.
shops, and that's the most annoying part.
Exactly, especially in Germany. But I think rest, we should definitely put rest as a pillar. Yeah,
I mean, we could, I think, really like just make this podcast even longer
that
and
is so true.
name different things like don't drink coffee
Yeah,
after 12 or 2 p.m.
yeah.
Get your 7 to 8 hours sleep, move your body, practice meditation, sleep enough,
Mm.
eat a healthy, full balanced diet. I mean, I think we don't need to put this out there. There's just so much good resources out there. I think what we maybe can give along to our listeners is just it's all about the balance.
Yeah.
Don't believe in everything you see on social media. And also at the same time, we're all individuals.
Mm.
Just try to figure out and test out things. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
And don't get obsessed with something and make it your new identity. If it doesn't work for you, it's fine. Just keep on trying. You will find things for you. I mean, that's the most beautiful thing about self expression
Mm,
and finding yourself. It's not getting there,
mm,
it's just the journey of finding those things and
yeah,
trying to figure out what works for you and what not.
yeah.
I would say that's a really crucial point.
No, that's I think that's the most important part, to be honest. And I think like to take a break does not mean that you've stopped or that you're not moving forward.
Mm.
Like the whole self-help industry and all these books and stuff, it's cool, it's nice. But even if you're not reading a self-help book
Yeah.
in a year, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's this whole
It's
concept of super compensation,
exactly.
basically from training.
Yeah.
Your muscles grow or you need recovery to actually perform better
Yeah.
the next time.
It's okay. It's things are not that serious. Um
Yeah.
it's really not. It's really not that serious. But at the same time, don't take yourself too serious either.
Yeah.
It's part of life.
Yeah.
The game is the game.
Honestly, I think we can leave with that. That was the
Yeah.
perfect ending. I would just say thanks again for tuning in for another episode of Run the Brand. And if you have any tools, tips, and tricks, how you trying to balance your life, your business, your sports, or whatever it might be, leave it down in the comments, either in the YouTube section or even on Spotify. Maybe even let us know what type of conversations you want to hear in the future, what you're interested in. We would love to actually really get to know you a bit better. And yeah, if you also want to follow us for more recent updates, make sure to hop by Instagram, leave us a follow there. And yeah, we see you in a few weeks for the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
See ya.